Okay, Ji. Now we start ahead. We were in the previous class. We were talking about the fertilization. Now the fertilization has occurred, and now it's going to be the process that is going to be said after fertilization. What are the results? The results are the diploid number of chromosomes. Then sex is determined. Then the second meiotic division is going to complete, and the genetic recombination that is going to occur, and then the process of implantation is going to start. Once the process of implantation starts, the cells, after they become the double DNA zygote, then it's going to divide mitotically. First, the meiotic division was complete. Cells are divided half-half. An equal number of genetic chromosomes are there, and then the equal number of chromosomes result. That is 2n. Then there is the mitotic division. That then starts. That mitotic division results into this two-cell stage. Then after the two-cell stage, it's going to further divide into the four-cell stage, and from the four-cell stage further going on to what we call as the morula, which reaches at about roughly the 16-cell stage. Then what is the process that we call it is the cleavage process. This zygote has reached the two-cell stage, that is after the fertilization has occurred, the zygote has formed, diploid zygote has formed. It is going to start its mitotic division, and this is going to reach first the two-cell stage, and then there are a series of mitotic divisions which are going to occur, increasing the number of cells in it, which become smaller and smaller with each division, and these small cells, we call it as the structure as a whole as the blastomeres. So till the 8-cell stage, and then there is a compact arrangement of the cells which is there because they become smaller and smaller, and they are compactly arranged, and they are held together by the tight junctions. This compaction segregates the cells into two ways, into two parts. One which is going to lie on the inner side of the cells, which is the zygote that is called the fertilized zygote that is called the inner cells, and one is from the outer side. So it's by the compaction two divisions are made, the inner cells and the outer cells. 3 days after fertilization, roughly, because at the second day of the fertilization it is the cleavage process which starts, that is the mitotic division of multiplication of the cells, which is called the blastomeres. Then by compaction we have the segregation, or two compartments of cells are formed, which are called the inner cells from the outer cells. So that we have two classes, because the inner cells are going to form the embryoblast, that is the embryo proper, and the outer cells are going to form the trophoblast, which is going to divide into cytotrophoblast and syncytiotrophoblast. On the third day after fertilization, the compacted embryo is roughly about 16 cell structure, which we call as the morula. Then what does the function of the compaction do? Compaction permits cell-to-cell attachment interaction, a prerequisite for the segregation of the internal cells, the inner cell mass or the embryoblast, and from the inner cell mass from the outer cell mass. So this compaction, it holds a certain group of cells as inner cell mass, but we call as the embryoblast, which is going to form the proper embryo, and this inner cell mass is going to form the tissue embryo, and surrounding cells which compose of the outer cell mass, they are going to form the trophoblast, and this trophoblast is ultimately going to end up as placenta. So this compaction process, that is holding certain cells in the outer cell portion and certain cells in the inner cell portion, so that because they're going to have different functions, so they divide it into a trophoblast and embryoblast. Now there is going to be the blastocyst formation. The morula enters the uterine cavity. At this moment, where it started dividing, it was still in the ampulla of the fallopian tube. From there, it is going to move on, and it reaches to the uterine cavity. Now this morula, if you see this picture, this is the blastocyst that is forming. That is the first, it is the 2-cell stage, then it is going to multiply this 8-cell stage, then it is going to become this 16-cell stage, and by the process of compaction you can see that the cells have been divided or segregated into an inner cell mass and then the outer cell mass. The inner cell mass is your embryoblast, as I told you, and the outer cell mass is your trophoblast. If you can see in this picture on the sides as well. So this is the embryoblast, which is segregated to one side, and this is the trophoblast, which is the outer side. So this is exactly what is occurring at the moment. Now this is going to develop into, this was initially as a whole solid mass, but then it is going to develop a cavity in it, which is going to be because of the zona pellucida, as you can see, is still there. This is the zona pellucida is still there, it is still intact. Then the morula is going to enter the uterine cavity, that is the 16 cell stage mass. Morula is basically given the name as a bunch because this bunch resembles the appearance of grapes. That is mulberry, that is the shatut jisko aap kehte hain, that is small particles, small rounded structures which are attached to a central portion. So it's something like that, that many cells which are collectively attached to in a certain area, so that because of that resemblance it is called morula. Enters the uterine cavity, fluid now is going to enter into these cells because it's going to penetrate through the zona pellucida into the spaces of this inner cell mass. Spaces then become confluent, that is small cavities which become confluent, and a single cavity, the blastocele, is formed. Okay, let me see if I have that picture. Yes, this is the blastocele. That means this cavity, the fluid, small collection. Maybe there is another picture. No. Small cavities develop, and then these fluid-filled cavities, they're going to become collectively as one cavity, and that is going to be called the blastocystic cavity. That is blastocele. Right, so spaces, small spaces, fluid with fluid in it, single, then these small spaces collectively become one single cavity, and that is called as blastocele. Cele is something which contains fluid, forms the time. Stages of development is as blastogenesis. The conceptus is called, in this stage, is the process is called blastogenesis, and the conceptus at this stage, that is this fluid filled thing, is called a blastocyst. The cells of the inner mass, the embryoblast, and outer mass, cytotrophoblast, flatten and form the epithelial wall of this blastocyst, as I have shown you in this picture. That means the inner cell mass or the embryoblast, they form one wall of this blastocystic cavity, or the other wall is formed by the outer cell mass or the trophoblast, and this cavity inside it is the blastocystic cavity, and the process is called blastogenesis. Right, the zona pellucida at this stage is now going to disappear, allowing the implantation to begin. Right, this was the traveling of the ovum zygote from the ampulla into the uterine cavity, and this is the process which is going to be in the initial part, which is going to occur before the implantation is occurring. In the ampulla of the fallopian tube, fertilization took place, second meiotic division completes, all those things occur, and it starts to move into the uterine cavity, and at this time the mitotic division starts. That mitotic division divides the cell into 2 to 4, 4 to 8, and then ultimately at 16 cell stage it is called the morula. Then it enters the uterine cavity, then fluid enters into this bunch of cells, and then that gives you small cavities. These cavities, then small ones, they are going to combine together, and then they give you a single cavity that is called the blastocele. This blastocele is then going to ultimately be called the blastocyst, and cells of the embryoblast and the trophoblast, which were collectively separated. Trophoblast is the cells which are going to line the cavity on all sides, and embryoblast is the cells or the inner cell mass, it's going to line the cavity on the other side. And at this stage now zona pellucida is disappearing, and it is going to allow the implantation process to occur, because that is sort of a boundary on the outer side that is going to be removed, and then this is going to start the implantation. And this is about roughly on the 6th day. The trophoblastic cells over the embryoblast pole penetrate between the epithelial cells of the uterine mucosa. If you see this, at this area where you have the embryoblast, that is, they're segregated to one side, this pole is called the embryonic pole, and the rest is that is the area which is away from this embryonic or the inner cell mass pole, that is called the abembryonic pole. So now this, the trophoblasts which are on the outside of this, they start to encroach. This is the endometrium, the uterine stroma, and the epithelium. This is the trophoblastic cells. They start to invaginate into this endometrium. This is the process of implantation which has occurred. This is the blastocystic cavity. End of the first week of the development, that is roughly 7th to 8th week, the human zygote passes through the morula and the blastocyst stage and begins the implantation. Now you can see this zygote is trying to the cytoplastic cells, the trophoblastic cells, they are going to embed into the uterine endometrium, and this is basically these light green ones are your trophoblastic cells, and this is the inner cell mass, and this is the blastocystic cavity which was formed. The cells, they invaginate into the endometrium, they start, and that is the process of implantation starts. If you see in this picture, again, this is the embryonic pole and this is the abembryonic pole. These are the embryoblast and this is the trophoblast and this is the trophocystic cavity which is formed. This is the uterine wall. This is the endometrium. This is the connective tissue which has the uterine glands, and you have the blood vessels and the capillaries. Then the endometrium is eroded by the developing zygote. This is by the trophoblast. They invaginate, they erode the endometrium, and they enter into the wall of the uterus because they're going to embed in it. At times, the uterus at this time of implantation, as we have already done, this is in 3 layers, that is the compact, the spongy and the basal layer. This has all grown from the proliferative phase to the spongy phase, when at the time of implantation the endometrium is in the phase of not the proliferative phase but the secretory phase, in which your arteries are tortuous, as you can see in this picture. The glands are dilated and succulent, and the tissue is also edematous. This is then the endometrium, it erodes the uterine wall, and then it enters into the connective tissue, that is up till the layer, and comes in contact with the glands and the blood vessels. Then the wall of the uterus, so this is embedding at this. If it does not embed, then earlier spontaneous abortions can occur. That is, if it does not implant, a variety of reasons can occur. More than half is because of your chromosomal abnormalities and the loss of embryo before the fetal period, the menstruation, that is called the pregnancy waste, disposal of the abnormal conceptus that could not have developed normally. This is the natural way of screening of the embryos. That is something which is without any known reason it is aborted. That is normally seen to be because of the chromosomal abnormalities, and it is said to be a nature's way of screening of the embryos. Without this screening, the incidence of infants with congenital anomalies would be far greater. So if it does not implant, it can have the chance, it has chromosomal abnormalities, it can be spontaneously thrown out. So now this starts to embed. The uterus wall, as I told you, has endometrium, myometrium and perimetrium. At implantation, the mucosa is in the secretory phase. The arteries are coiled and the tissue is succulent, that is full edematous. The 3 distinct layers in the endometrium are compact, intermediate, spongy and basal layer. Blastocyst is going to implant either in the interior wall of the uterus, or at this stage the zygote is given the name as the blastocyst because we have formed the blastocystic cavity in the endometrium along the interior or the posterior wall of the body of the uterus. You can see this was the process: ovulation, passage, fertilization. Fertilization goes on, passing after fertilization, it completes the second meiotic division. After this, the mitotic division starts. Then this morula is formed, and at 16 days, 4th day, 4 to 5th days, it comes at the 4 to 5 days or the 6th day, it reaches the uterine cavity, and in the uterine cavity, it starts to implant in the wall. That is, there is erosion of the trophoblast into the walls of the endometrium. Conceptious now attaches to the endometrial epithelium. The trophoblasts, they proliferate because that is the outer layer, so they're going to proliferate rapidly and differentiate into 2 layers. That is cytotrophoblast and syncytiotrophoblast. Syncytiotrophoblast is the outer one and cytotrophoblast is the inner one. Syncytiotrophoblast is multinucleated, and this produces an enzyme which erodes the endometrium and allows the blastocyst to burrow into the endometrium. And the layer of cells, this inner cell mass also starts to divide into 2, that is the epiblast and the hypoblast. That is a layer of cells which is called the hypoblast, which is on the inner one. This can be the process of implantation. Normally the human blastocyst implants along the interior or the posterior walls. It can be abnormal somewhere other than this normal interior or posterior wall of the body of the uterus. So if implantation can take place even outside the uterus, that is called the extrauterine or ectopic pregnancy. These can be the implantation sites. This implantation sites can be the abdominal cavity. If you see in the loop, it can be the rectouterine cavity, that is behind the uterus and between the anal canal. And then implantation in the ampullary region of the tube, as you can see, that means it starts the mitotic division and it starts to embed in very much in the fallopian tube, and it doesn't reach the placenta, the uterine cavity. Then the tubal implantation, interstitial implantation, that can be there, that is in the isthmus part of this uterus and the fallopian tube junction. Then it can be implantation in the internal os, that is the where there is the exit between the cervix and the body of the uterus. And then it can be implanted in the ovary. That means after ovulation, instead of going inwards, this goes outwards, and this goes and embeds into the ovary. So these are all the different abnormal sites which where implantation can occur. These are again the different abnormal sites of implantation. Then there is the inhibition of implantation, that is what is basically called the family planning. This is the administration of large doses of estrogens and progestins morning after pills, it is said. For several days, they begin shortly after unprotected sexual intercourse. That is, you have not taken any precaution, and there is the chances of pregnancy might occur. This is given as morning after pills. This prevents implantation of the blastocyst to occur. Even if fertilization has occurred this morning after pill, which is basically estrogen and progesterone, that when it is given, this prevents the implantation of the blastocyst, which is thrown away by the menstrual cycle. So a high dose of diethyl stilbestrol accelerates the passage of cleaving zygote along the uterine tube, and so that doesn't allow the routine passages to occur, and this doesn't allow the implantation. So when implantation is not there, the unwanted pregnancy is going to be aborted out. Then certain intrauterine devices inserted in the uterus through the vagina and the cervix interferes with the implantation. Certain drugs interfere, IUDs, some intrauterine devices containing progesterones also do not allow implantation to occur. So these are all reasons. That means if the family planning methods were not adopted and you are thinking that the pregnancy might occur, and even after fertilization has occurred, this is to prevent the implantation process. That is IUDs, that is the intrauterine device, small capsules of progesterone which do not allow the implantation to occur, and certain other morning pills, which all these basically prevent the implantation to occur. Then the ectopic pregnancies, implantation take place outside the uterus, abdominal cavity, ovary, uterine tube, abdominal cavity, peritoneal lining, ovary proper. In most of these, the embryo dies, but in the second month, because there is no space such amount that the baby can grow. And then when this occurs, there is severe hemorrhage and severe abdominal pain, which is a sign that in the middle of the pregnancy there is a sign of acute emergency, that is because of the abdominal the pain in the abdomen, complaint, and the bleeding. This is automatically taken as the ectopic pregnancy. You see this rectouterine pouch between the uterus and the anal canal. Intrauterine and extrauterine pregnancy are unusual, probably masked initially by the presence of the uterine pregnancy. Ectopic both together simultaneously, but ectopic pregnancy can be terminated by surgical removal or involved, or so that not to interfere with the intranormal uterine pregnancy. The placenta previa can occur. The blastocyst implants close to the internal os of the cervix. Later, the placenta bridges the opening. That means if the implantation is close to the internal os, that is where there is junction of the body of the uterus and the cervix, there if it is implanted, that means the placenta is going to bridge the opening between the of the internal os, and this is what we call as placenta previa, that is before the developing fetus, or the that is called as the placenta is placed as before the developing placenta fetus. So this can cause severe life-threatening bleeding, because if it starts to rupture or dislocate, this can cause severe hemorrhage because of the blood vessels in the placenta. It is in the second part of the pregnancy or during delivery. Both ways it can cause severe bleeding. Even if when there is labor starts, then even it is going to, because before the baby comes out, the placenta is going to have to make passage. So for that, it is going to dislodge from the walls of the uterus, giving severe bleeding. Or it can be in the second part when the uterus starts to enlarge. This placenta can be disrupted and it can start to give bleeding. So this is the abnormal place of the zygote embedding into the internal os. This can lead to placenta previa and it can cause severe problems. Then is hydatiform mole. This hydatiform mole is something that the paternal pregnancy tests or the material is there, but all the cells, that is the double DNA and all, is there from the father, but the mother is the cell, that is the female cell, is without the nucleus. So that means the hormones are produced which are going to be HCG. This is going to be produced. There is, that means trophoblast. So that is sort of a fertilization without the nucleus of the female cell, and this is trophoblast develop. They form the placental membrane and they form the placental hormones, that is HCG is formed, and HCG is the material which is going to be for the pregnancy test. And there is no embryonic tissue because the zygote is without any this is abnormal. There is no embryonic tissue which is there. So it is said to be a hydatiform mole. It starts to grow, but it is not a normal tissue, and it is called the hydatiform mole. It secretes a very high levels of HCG. If there is very high level of HCG secreted, it should be all of a sudden given the suspicion of a hydatiform mole. And because when you cannot see the blastocystic cavity in the ultrasound and you have this high levels of HCG, suspect this hydatiform mole, and because produced, and this can be benign or it can be malignant. So what is the end of the first week which is occurred? First is we had oogenesis, that was ovulation occurred, oocytes in the ampulla. Then the testes spermatogenesis occurred, that is both the gametogenesis, and they are stored in the epididymis. Deposit of sperms in the vagina took place, uterus and enter the uterine tubes, right? Then second meiotic division, mature oocyte and the second polar body is formed. That is, once the fertilization occurs, the second meiotic division is going to complete, producing a secondary oocyte, and this second polar body is going to form. Then when this approaches the male, the sperm approaches the oocyte, this secondary oocyte, it is going to swell, it is going to form the female pronucleus, and sperm enters the oocyte, that is called the male pronucleus, because both of these are going to enlarge in size. This is what exactly has occurred, all what we have studied up till now. Then the uterine tube towards the uterus, the zygote, cleavage passes the fertilized ovum, zygote that goes into the uterus, cleavage starts, that is the division starts. A mitotic division starts, smaller cells form which are called the blastomeres. 3 days after the fertilization, 12 or more blastomeres, they enter, they are called the morula, they enter the uterus. That means from passing on from the fallopian tube, entering into the uterine cavity, they have reached this division of the cleavage where the cells are 12 to 16 in number, and they enter the uterus. In this stage, it is called the morula. Cavity in the morula, the fluid starts to appear in this cavity of these cells, that is called the blastocyst is going to be produced. First it was blastocele, and then proper blastocyst is going to form, consisting of then this is dividing the morula into two located cells, that is at one side it is going to be called the embryoblast, that is the inner cell mass, and a blastocystic cavity is going to form, and the cells on the lining on the outside is going to be called your trophoblast. So 3 things happen, that is the blastocystic cavity forms. 4 to 5 days after fertilization, zona pellucida is then shed off, and the trophoblast adjacent to the embryoblast, they start to attach to the endometrial. That is the process of implantation starts. Where you have the embryoblast, that is the inner cell mass, that is the embryonic pole, not the abembryonic pole. This is going to start to embed into the wall of the uterus, that is the endometrial epithelium. Trophoblast at the embryonic pole differentiates into two layers, that is sensitio-trophoblast on the outside and cytotrophoblast on the inner side. Sensitio-trophoblast is going to invade the endometrial epithelium and the underlying connective tissue. So this is what has occurred in whole of the time of the first week of development, that is starting from gametogenesis on to the moving of the gametes, the fertilization, all that process of capacitation, then the corona reaction and all those reactions, and then when the fertilization has occurred, the second meiotic division is going to complete, then the male pronucleus and female pronucleus are going to form, leading to the fertilization. Then this, once the fertilization occurs, second meiotic division is going to complete. Once the second meiotic division, this starts into the mitotic division. That is the cleavage process starts from 1 to 2, 2 to 4 and all that until 12 to 16 stage. This cell zygote is going to, this is called the morula. This is moving on towards the uterine cavity from the fallopian tube, and there it is going to start to embed. There, this compact cell masses, they are going to divide into two, that is the generalized group of cells. They are going to be by the firm attachment, they are going to be divided into two arrangements, one which is going to be called the inner cell mass, and that is the other is the outer cell mass. The inner cell mass is going to be located on one side, that is going to be called the embryoblast, which is going to develop into the embryo proper and trophoblast. Other is called the outer cell mass, is called the trophoblast. This trophoblast is further going to divide into two, that is the cytotrophoblast and sensitio-trophoblast. This basically produces the hormone, and this also embeds or implants into the uterine mucosa. Now, continuing with this process, the implantation, what happens is, the end of the first week, the blastocystic cavity, the development of the human zygote has passed through the morula, the blastocystic stage, and begun the implantation in the uterine mucosa. Then the second week of the development, that is, this is going to be called as the bilaminar germ disc. That is because this, at the moment, the inner cell mass, this is going to divide it into two layers. One is called the epiblast and that other is called the hypoblast. Embryos of the same fertilization age do not necessarily develop at the same rate. This embryoblast is a bilaminar embryonic disc is going to be developed. That is, these embryoblasts are going to divide it into two cells, one that is called the upper one, that is going to be called the epiblast, and the lower one that is going to be called the hypoblast. So these embryoblasts, that is the inner cell mass, further divides into two layers, germ cells that form all the tissues and organs. This is basically the development of the embryo. Then is the extraembryonic structures, that is the amniotic cavity is going to form, then the amnion, yolk sac is going to form, connecting stalk and chorionic sac. If you see in this picture, this is the implantation is going on. This blue is your epiblast cells, the yellow one is your hypoblast cells, that is the inner cell mass divided into two. Blue is your epiblast and this yellow is your hypoblast cells. This on the outside is the cavity, this is the blastocystic cavity, these are the trophoblastic cells, that is the cytotrophoblast, it is unicellular, whereas this is the multicellular layer, is the sensitio-trophoblast. This sensitio-trophoblast is embedding in the uterine wall. Then in the epiblast there is some cavities appear, and then this produces something what is called as your amniotic cavity. That is, an amniotic cavity is lined by the cells of the cytotrophoblast and also the epiblast, which are going to be your aminoblasts. Right. So the implantation of blastocysts is completed during the second week. The endometrial cells undergo apoptosis, that is programmed cell death, which facilitates the invasion. That means the invasion of the sensitive trophoblast, which started, is going to continue onwards by the process of apoptosis, that is programmed cell death, that is erosion of these sensitive trophoblasts into the wall, and that is going to complete the blastocyst to be embedded in the uterine wall. Then is the embryoblasts. The cells of the inner cell mass or the embryoblast differentiate into two layers, as I've told you. Small cuboidal ones, these are going to be called the hypoblast, that is the lower ones, and the high with the columnar type cells, these are going to be called the epiblasts. Then the trophoblast area over the embryoblast, the trophoblast differentiate into two layers. That is, inner layer is mononucleated, that is the cytotrophoblast, and outer is the multinucleated, that's the syncytial trophoblast. So you can see mononucleated, this is the cytotrophoblast, and these are the syncytial trophoblasts. Because this is a layer, this is the weak of two, so that is why everything is going to be divided into two. We see that we have formed the inner cell mass as the epiblast and the hypoblast. The trophoblast is also divided into syncytioblast and cytotrophoblast. So these are two, that they also divide into two. Then is the decidual cells. What are these decidual cells? These are basically the name given to the, or the condition of the endometrium, that is the endometrial stroma that becomes edematous. Adjacent to the implantation site is edematous and highly vascular, because it has to embed and it has to help the baby to grow. So that changes in the endometrial stroma, which is highly vascular and edematous, that is called the decidua, because these cells are called the decidual cells because there is something what is called as they contain plenty of glycogen, and once these certain tests are given, they are having a polyhedral in appearance, and these cells are called the decidual reactions, and these cells are called the decidual cells. The glands are large and tortuous, secrete abundant glycogen and mucus, because again they have to provide the initial nutrition to the growing embryo. So this change in the endometrium is what we call as the decidual reaction, and the cells as the decidual cells. Some decidual cells degenerate adjacent to the syncytiotrophoblasts, and this engulfs these degenerating cells, providing a rich source of embryonic nutrition. That is, these cells with the plenty of glycogen and the blood vessels, the blood that is going to supply nutrition to the developing embryo. Then is human chorionic gonadotrophin. Human chorionic gonadotrophin, or the HCG, syncytiotrophoblasts produce this HCG and enters the maternal blood via the lacunae. Lacunae are, we'll see, small spaces which develop in the syncytiotrophoblast, which are called the lacunae. This is then going to erode into the endometrium. In the endometrium, it is going to join up with the maternal blood. So thus, syncytiotrophoblasts produce HCG via these lacunae is going to enter into the maternal blood. HCG maintains the hormonal activity of the corpus luteum in the ovary and during pregnancy until progesterone is formed, and it secretes estrogen and progesterone to maintain the pregnancy. So this is going to forms a basis for the pregnancy test as well, and it also helps the corpus luteum to become the corpus luteum of pregnancy and to maintain the pregnancy. Enough HCG at the end of second week is a positive pregnancy test. So that is a very helpful parameter, that HCG performs functions, forms the basis of pregnancy, and it also helps the corpus luteum to continue in the ovary during pregnancy, so that it secretes estrogen and progesterone to maintain the pregnancy, and it also forms the basis for the pregnancy till the second week. And this is the diagnostic feature with which pregnancy is diagnosed. Now, this the syncytiotrophoblast is invading in the connective tissue of the uterus, as you can see in this, and these are invading. The 10th day, the blastocyst is more deeply embedded in the endometrium. All this is or more deeply embedded. The penetration defect, that is where at this point where this started to erode, that is the endometrium became discontinuous, that is the penetration defect. This is going to be closed now once it has implanted properly. This defect, that is the opening where the implantation started, this is going to be closed by the fibrin coagulum, which is called the closing plug, and then again the epithelium becomes, if you can see in the other picture, this defect is going to be complete and the epithelium becomes smooth again, and it is the 12th day that the uterine epithelium formed. So this closing plug is going to be closed by the fibrin coagulum, that is by the fibrous tissue and by the formation of the connective tissue. Then is going to be the development of the lacunae. Now these syncytiotrophoblasts, they have invaded. If you can see in this syncytiotrophoblasts, they have invaded inside the connective tissue of the stroma. They have passed through this endometrium. They are going to enter into the connective tissue portion of the endometrium. The trophoblast at the embryonic pole. Everything, majority of the changes, they are occurring at the embryonic pole. They develop as isolated cavities in the syncytiotrophoblast. If you see this picture, these are isolated cavities. These are called the lacunae. If you can see this, these are the lacunae. They develop isolated cavities. They develop in the syncytial trophoblasts. They appear in the syncytial trophoblasts. They're called the lacunae, and this lacunae is nothing but spaces, and so this stage is called the lacunar stage. The lacunae is filled up with a mixture of maternal blood because the ruptured endometrial capillaries. This occurs that once this erosion occurs, this is going to come into contact with the area or the blood vessels of the mother. That is what we call as the sinusoids, maternal sinusoids. So there is a connection between the lacunae and the sinusoids from the mother. This develops basically as a structure what we call as uteroplacental circulation. That is, there is a mixed combination or a link between the fetal and the maternal circulation occurs, and this is what we call as filled with mixture of maternal and cellular debris. Eroded uterine glands pass to the embryonic disc by diffusion and provides nutritive material to the embryo. So if you see this, this is the lacunae which are developing. Then these are the enlarged blood vessels of the endometrium. This is going to be called as the sinusoids. This is where your fibrin coagulum, that is the defect in the implantation site, is closed by this fibrin coagulum, and then this is the trophoblast. This is the syncytial trophoblast, multinucleated, that is uninucleated. Spaces develop in this which are called the lacunae, and then these are the enlarged blood vessels which are called the sinusoids. These lacunae, they are going to erode into these maternal blood vessels and they become continuous, and this is what we call as the initial uteroplacental circulation. Cells of the syncytial trophoblast, they penetrate into the stroma, erode the endothelial lining of the maternal capillaries. These capillaries, congested and dilated, are known as sinusoids, that is the maternal capillaries. The syncytial lacunae become continuous with the sinusoids and the maternal blood enters the lacunar system. This is what we call as the initial primordial uteroplacental circulation. That is the development roughly at the second week, the development of primordial uteroplacental circulation. If you see this, okay, this is that is occurring. You see this, that is, these are the sinusoids, maternal sinusoids. They are coming in contact with the trophoblastic lacunae. This is the development of the endometrial circulation with the fetal circulation. On the 13th day, the surface defect in the endometrium has healed. Occasional bleeding occurs at this site at the 13th day when the sinusoids come in contact with the lacunae. At this time, a certain amount of bleeding might occur at the implantation site. Increased blood flow into the lacunar spaces. Bleeding is near the 28th day of the menstrual cycle, so this can be confused with the menstrual bleeding, and the number of days which that is the expected delivery date can be confused, because this is near this process, because at the 15th day ovulation started, and now at this stage where you have reached the implantation, that is after 2 weeks, is roughly the 28th day of the menstrual cycle, where we are going to expect that the menstrual flow has to start. But because fertilization has occurred, this menstrual flow will not be there and pregnancy will be continued. And this is, at this time, HCG will give you the positive pregnancy test roughly at the second week. But if because of this implantation certain amount of leakage of blood is there, it might be confused with the small amount of menstrual cycle or the menstruation which is there, and that might give you a erroneous date of expected delivery, that they said that this is menstruation or it is the bleeding at the time. But this should be expected that it can be a bleeding because of this at the time of implantation. Then there is going to be the formation of the two cavities. So now we have formed two layers, that is the epiblast and the hypoblast. We have formed the two cytotrophoblast and syncytotrophoblast. Then there are two cavities are going to form, that is the amniotic cavity and blastocystic cavity already formed, and now we are going to form the yolks. A small cavity appears in the epiblast. This enlarges and becomes the amniotic cavity. If you see in this picture, this epiblast, this small cavity appears into it, and this forms this cavity which is called the amniotic cavity. Epiblast cells adjacent to the cytotrophoblast are called the myeloblasts. These are going to line this amniotic cavity. Rest of the epiblast, they are going to line the amniotic cavity. Changes in the embryoblast result in a flat, almost circular bilaminar plate of cells. The embryonic disc consisting of this is flattened stage. That is why it is called the bilaminar disc. That is the hypoblast and the epiblast. Embryonic disc. Then there is the formation of the primary umbilical vesicle, or what you call as the yolk sac at the abembryonic pole. Now what happens is, that was at the embryonic pole, that is in the epiblast cells you have certain cavities. These cavities unite together and form the amniotic cavity, and this amniotic cavity is going to be lined by the aminoblasts, which are the cells which are there from the cytotrophoblast and also from the epiblast cells. Then at the abembryonic pole, flattened cells form a thin membrane, the exocoelomic or the Hauser's membrane, that lines the inner surface of the cytotrophoblast. If you see this picture, this is the cytotrophoblast cells. These cells, they are going to be lined on the inner side of the cytotrophoblast cells. This is called the Hauser's membrane, or the inner portion. This is going to form there, and it is going to line another cavity which is called this the primitive or the exocoelomic cavity or the primitive yolk sac. That is the area lined by the inner side of this trophoblastic cells is going to form a cavity which is your primitive yolk sac or the exocoelomic cavity. Right, this hyozoa lines the inner surface of the cytotrophoblast. This membrane with the hypoblast forms the exocoelomic cavity or the primitive yolk sac, or it is also called the primitive umbilical vesicle. If you see this, these cells, this is the Hauser's membrane. If you see this exocoelomic membrane which is lining the inner side of the trophoblastic cells, and this lining, it produces a cavity which we call as the exocoelomic cavity or the primitive yolk sac or the primitive umbilical vesicle is produced. Okay. Then the extraembryonic mesoderm is to develop that embryonic disc. So now we have developed the epiblast and the hypoblast. We have developed trophoblast and the cytotrophoblast and the syncytiotrophoblast. We have developed the amniotic cavity from the epiblast, and we have developed the lining by the Hauser's membrane on the inner side of the trophoblastic cells, cytotrophoblastic cells, which gave rise to the primitive yolk sac that has developed. Then this embryonic disc lies between the amniotic cavity and the umbilical vesicle. That means between the yolk sac and between the amniotic cavity. Cells from the vesicle are going to, and a vesicle form a layer of connective tissue, the extraembryonic mesoderm. That is, certain cells, they are going to form on the inner side of the cytotrophoblastic cells, and that is what we call the extraembryonic mesoderm, which surrounds the amnion and the vesicle. This is very clear on this picture. Another one. In this one, you can see this was the cavity was formed, the amniotic cavity. In this, the lining on the inner side of this Hauser's membrane that lined this, what we called as the primitive yolk sac. Then there is another layer of cells which is going to develop into the extraembryonic mesoderm. This pink, that is going to be divided into the extraembryonic mesoderm, which is going to cover all the amniotic cavity and the yolk sac. This is going to be called into, given the name of two layers. One is going to be extraembryonic somatopleuric, that is going to cover both this amniotic cavity and your yolk sac both, that is on the outer side. This layer is going to be called the extraembryonic somatopleuric mesoderm, and then there is the extraembryonic splenopleuric mesoderm. This splenopleuric mesoderm is something which covers the yolk sac. Then this extraembryonic mesoderm as well, you develop, if you see this picture, this one. In this picture, this is on the inner side of the cytotrophoblast. There is the development of this pink layer, that is the extraembryonic mesoderm. This extraembryonic mesoderm develops cavities in it, and these cavities then ultimately coalesce together and they form a one big cavity which divides this into two layers. The layer which is going to be covering the amniotic cavity the yolk sac, that is going to be called as the extraembryonic splenopleuric mesoderm, and that which is going to cover both on the outside by the amniotic cavity and by the yolk sac, this is going to be called as the somatopleuric extraembryonic somatopleuric mesoderm. And then ultimately this amniotic cavity, this cavity and between these two layers is going to coalesce together and form a one big cavity, which is going to be called the extraembryonic cavity or your chorionic cavity. If you see in this picture, in this one, right? So this is the extraembryonic mesoderm, that is the pinkish. This again develops a cavity in it, which gradually coalesces together and form the extraembryonic cavity or the chorionic cavity. And this extraembryonic mesoderm is this, the outer one is the extraembryonic somatopleuric mesoderm, and that which is lining the inner side, that is the yolk sac, and that is going to be called as the splenopleuric mesoderm. So this is the extraembryonic mesoderm, and in between these two is the chorionic cavity, and lining the inner side of the cytoplasm is known as the chorionic plate. That is the cells of this extraembryonic mesoderm which are on the inner side of the cytoplasm, they are called the chorionic plate. Then space surrounds the primitive yolk sac and amniotic cavity, except where the germ disc is connected to trophoblast is the connecting stalk. That is this area. All it covers by the cavity, only this small place is continuous. There is a link between the trophoblast and the cell, the embryo. This place is where you develop, there is no cavity, and this is called the connecting stalk, and it's going to develop into the umbilical cord. Space around the primitive yolk sac and the amniotic cavity, it surrounds all the space, but except only at the space where it is connected with the trophoblast becomes the umbilical cord. The lining the trophoblast and the amnion is called the extraembryonic somatopleuric, that is all of it, and lining the covering the yolk sac is what we call as the splenopleuric mesoderm, as I showed you. This which is covering this extraembryonic, initially extraembryonic mesoderm developed by the cells on the inner side of the cytotrophoblast. This is called the extraembryonic mesoderm. Then cells cavities appear in this extraembryonic mesoderm, dividing it into a large cavity, and this large cavity is what we call as the chorionic cavity or the extraembryonic cavity. And this the extraembryonic mesoderm which covers the yolk sac is going to be called the extraembryonic splenopleuric mesoderm, and that which is covering the both on the outer side is going to be called as the extraembryonic somatic mesoderm, right? And the lining covering the yolk sac is known as the extraembryonic splenopleuric mesoderm. Okay. Right. Let me show you, where is that slide? Just a second. So now this is the summary of the second week. This is the blastocyst is partially embedded in the endometrial stoma. Endometrial changes preparation for the implantation is known as decidual reaction. Then the trophoblast differentiates into the cytotrophoblast and the syncytiotrophoblast. The lacunae they develop in the syncytiotrophoblast, maternal sinusoids develop, and we develop the uteroplacental circulation. Then cytotrophoblast, they encroach into the syncytiotrophoblast, that is column-like cells of the cytotrophoblast, they encroach into the syncytiotrophoblast. These are called the primary villi. The mucosal surface defect has healed. The embryo, that is there, what exactly has occurred in this layer is embryoblast differentiate into epiblast and hypoblast, that is bilaminar disc. Amniotic cavity appears. Epiblast give rise to myeloblast. The amniotic cavity, extraembryonic mesoderm developed, and then you have the formation of the chorionic cavity. Then the lining on the outside is called the extraembryonic somatopleuric mesoderm, and that lining, the yolk sac, is called the extraembryonic somatopleuric mesoderm. So now the what exactly we are saying is the second week of development is known as weeks of 2. Why? The trophoblast differentiate into two layers, that is the cytotrophoblast and sensitive trophoblast. Oh, so this was the uteroplacental circulation. Then is the 13th day, the formation of the amniotic cavity, formation of the umbilical vesicle, primary umbilical vesicle, mesoderm. Then is the, see all these stages. Then if you see in this summary of the second week, the summary of the second week is the blastocyst partially embedded in the endometrial stoma, that is the implantation. Then decidual reaction occurs. Then the trophoblast differentiate into cytotrophoblast and sensitive trophoblast. This is all what is happening in the second week. The way we recollected the first week, we are recollecting. Implantation started, blastocyst is embedded, cells change occur in the endometrium, that is called the decidual reaction. Trophoblast becomes into two layers. Then lacunae develop in the sensitive trophoblast. Sinusoids, maternal blood vessels, they dilate. There is a link between the lacunae and the maternal sinusoids, that is called the primitive uteroplacental circulation. Cytotrophoblastic cells, they're going to invade into the sensitive trophoblast like column-like cells, and this structure that is formed is called the primary villi, and the mucosal defect is healed. Then what occurs is embryoblast differentiates into the epiblast and hyperblast. That is why we call it a stage of bilaminar disc. Now this is bilaminar disc formation, that is in the second week. Amniotic cavity is lined by the amnioblasts. Then extraembryonic mesoderm develops, which is going to be then be occupied by the chorionic cavity or the extraembryonic coelomic cavity. Then it is divided into two layers, that is the mesoderm embryonic somatopleuric, that is which covers both the amniotic cavity and your yolk sac, and that which is just covering the yolk sac is called the extraembryonic splenopleuric mesoderm. So now what we say is that the second week of development is known as weeks of 2, because everything we have developed is 2. Trophoblast giving rise to cytotrophoblast and sensitive trophoblast. Embryoblast forms two layers, the epiblast and the hypoblast. Extraembryonic mesoderm is split into two layers, the somatopleure and the splenopleure. So there, and the two cavities which have formed, the amniotic and the yolk sac cavities form. So that is the reason why we call it the week of 2, and this occurs as bilaminar disc is formed. That is, these bilaminar disc is at the moment just called the ectoderm and the endoderm. Mesoderm has still to develop, and this is mesoderm that has developed is called the extraembryonic mesoderm. There is going to be an intraembryonic mesoderm. That would be when it becomes a trilaminar structure. So if you see this, the cavity, this is the final position which has occurred. We have formed epiblast and the hypoblast. We have formed amniotic cavity and the primitive yolk sac. We have formed this cytotrophoblast and cytotrophoblast. We have formed the extraembryonic splenopleuric and extraembryonic somatopleuric mesoderm. All these are formed. Then there is going to be a lining by the Hauser's membrane that is on the inner side of the cytotrophoblast, which forms the primitive cavity, and the rest of this yolk sac is going to be pinched off, because that is the secondary yolk sac that is going to be smaller in size, and this is going to pinch off the rest of the cavity, which is called the exocoelomic cyst, which is there. Okay, the the hypoblast cells migrate along the inner side of the exocoelomic membrane, as you can see on this, from a new cavity with the exocoelomic cavity. This is the secondary yolk sac or the definitive yolk sac, and small portions of these primitive ones are pinched off, and that is called the exocoelomic cyst, often seen in the chorionic cavity, right? So that is all what occurs in the second week, and we have recollected. In the next class we will talk about the third week, and then we are going to again try to recollect all the first week and the second week, so that you understand. So exactly what we have reached is at this stage. All this structure is what we have formed all at the moment. So uteroplacental circulation, chorionic cavity, then this is your chorionic plate, that is the cells extracoelomic, somatic, these are the small plates which line on the inner side of the cytoplasm, that is called the chorionic plate. Then you have these two cavities, you have these two layers, you have the secondary yolk sac formation, and you have the placental circulation which is there, and then you have the small area where there is no cavity, that is going to be called as the connecting stalk, which is going to develop into the umbilical cord. So I hope by now it is clear. We are going to recollect when we talk about the third week, so that you understand what exactly were the steps, and then we will continue. Okay, thank you.